Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to Legends of Water. I'm your host, AJ Feecase. With me here tonight, I have Ken Berenger, I have Cory Mertes, I have James Willison, and Riggs Eccleberry. And tonight, we're gonna do a couple things. We're gonna dive deeper into some of the stats that we shared last time, the dark secrets of water infrastructure, and really just how they're affecting you. We're gonna talk to you a little bit about forever chemicals, also known as PFAS, because that has been a kind of a growing topic in the colloquial conversation lately, and I think it's worth exploring. And then also, before all that happens, we're going to go ahead and jump into our little business update. So, Ken, CEO, Water on Demand, how about you lead us off and give us a little bit of an update on how things are progressing in Water on Demand?
Okay, great. And good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining. Taking time out of your Thursday night. Finally, I believe that we really have the team that will make this into a gigantic success story and something that will be a true agent of change, for finance and for human health. So, couple of major developments. We have moved forward dramatically in the development of our financial model. We figured out things in the course of our Riggs found out a lot of stuff. He's been hammering away at AI. He's really just prompting a bunch of questions, and he's finding out details that even some experts had to actually do some research to validate, which big kudos to Riggs on that. But tremendous updates in the terms of how we've developed the financial model. There are aspects of the model that we are actually a great deal more generous than we even thought. There's a reinvestment aspect to the model that adds up to 31% to the income. That's not the income. It's adding on top of 31 to 32, was it, Regs?
Something like, yeah, depends on how you look at it, but yeah.
Right. It depends, I guess, your tax bracket. 31 to 32% increase in income to those investors. When compared to other asset classes that kind of operate in this tax sheltered environment, it's shaping up to be a head and shoulders favorite. The fact that we've now able to determine that we can measure the impact dollar for drop or dollar for gallon is something that cannot be done in any other asset class or any other impact class for that investment. And the other fact is that we've contracted with, hired, and have now engaged, and Cory's done a lot of work on that. And we've now submitted volumes of information to a professional organization who's now organizing it, and they're going to create an incredible looking package that's highly professional. And we'll be in a position, and I don't want to give it a drop dead date, but I believe that by the end of this month, I think it's safe to say, we will now have a data room that is so voluminous, we will be able to sit in front of even the most discerning chief investment officers out there and be able to answer all their questions up front with the information we have. And we're not even starting there. We're actually going to turn our immediate attention to an incredible unmet need in the Opportunity Zone Fund universe, which are closed funds. Now, I don't know how much we've gotten into closed funds before, but maybe we'll circle back to that, AJ. But essentially, there are tens of thousands of individuals or partnerships. They have to be two people or more. Cory and I owned a business. We sold it. We have a $10 million capital gain. We owe a huge tax bill in a couple of months. So what we did is we created a fund of ourselves. It's Cory and Ken Fund, and we're inside an OZ zone. Now, up until recently, they had kind of a menu of a bunch of crappy multifamily properties to look at. That was your choice, because everyone thought originally that all of your Opportunity Zone investments had to be inside the zip code that was an Opportunity Zone. We are completely unique. Okay, I just had a conversation with an investor today. He was like, "I'm blown away." I had questions like, how are you going to have all these systems inside just these zip codes? We are an Opportunity Zone business. So one of the greatest superpowers of what we do and how we do it, we operate inside this zone, okay? And we can put systems and solve problems on every corner of the globe, and the money can still flow through to the Opportunity Zone Fund, remain entirely compliant, and give the investors that tax-deferred or even tax-exempt income that they've been looking for. So that's super exciting. And I think we'll start to have those conversations with these closed funds. Probably we can start it by the end of the month. Here's what's a key to them. these folks are very, very, in many, many cases, they're running out of time. They deployed an investment into the escrow account of these funds months and months and months ago. They have an 18-month window. If they don't deploy capital into an actual investment, they can't stick it in like a money market fund and hope to avoid taxes, right? It has to be deployed into something that creates financial prosperity or economic prosperity inside one of these zones. So they have a couple of weeks, couple of months remaining before they lose their tax benefit. These folks are not, $20 million players. They're a couple of $1 million. David believes, and he said this in our last meeting, I think it was on this platform, that he believes that we can raise $10-20 million, pretty much out of the gate by the end of the year, which I'm super excited about. That's my update.
And I wanted to add something very, very cool. And that is that, Ken, you have been getting tremendous response to people joining us in the general partnership, what's called the sponsorship of this fund. And in fact, we are at a deadline here. But the point is that it's been extraordinarily generous, and that is going to start tightening up because we can't afford to raise the money that we need to really make this whole fund happen. If we give everything away, it's just not going to work. We're going to give away more than we have. So,
well, we have a fiduciary. We have a responsibility to the folks that are participating, that are writing those big checks into these funds. We have a responsibility to them. We have a responsibility to the company because we are a registered offering that wants to hit the market year after next. So, having as much income in house also is an important part of how our market cap looks, how we look as as an undervalued company, that sort of thing. Sure.
100%. So just to say that these are going to get less and less generous. So if you're interested, go ahead and contact us. We'll give you the
Let me
contact.
be more specific. I have about a dozen appointments between now and the end of the month. My goal is these are folks that are already booked to talk to me. So, I'm gonna basically process these appointments. But by the end of the month, we're going to need to move that line. We're going to need to make some changes.
Okay. So you're
But
right.
that gives us some time.
No, totally fine. Go to offer.waterondemand.com to find out more. Okay. MC, you got the platform.
Also, I was looking at Cory. Did you have anything to add? There's a couple
Oh,
times I was like, I don't know, is Cory trying to get in, or what are we doing here?
I haven't introduced him yet. Wait. Okay.
Let's intro him.
Yeah, no. So first of all, I'm totally excited about being here. This is a great team. I know that I have a very unique background to really help this team and this company reach the goals that we are expecting. And so excited. This is going to be great. Just a little bit about my background. I came out of public accounting, so I worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers for a number of years. And then I started working for various startup companies. So the first one was Alliance United Insurance Company. We basically started with about 10 people working out of the basement of a house in Ventura, California. And basically, we grew that to 300 million in revenue over a 5-year period. And I was basically the financial officer and EVP for that company, and basically made all of the systems operational, financial. I was the guy. I mean, I knew everything that was going on. We had some really good data mining software. And that company was then sold to Kemper. I also went for a really big company, Countrywide Financial, and I was there during the mortgage, however you want to call it, the mortgage industry timeframe where everybody was going crazy. And that was really challenging, but it really made me aware of working for a big public company and trying to manage, our financials, what was going on. And then I worked for another startup company called Ocean Financial, same sort of thing, grew it from scratch. And then I was also self-employed. So I have a huge background of working for large, medium, and small companies. And I have a knack for and a desire to work for startups and growing them to a point where it's profitable. I think this is fun stuff, and this is going to be a fun project, and this is a great team to be on.
I want to
And
add that.
I just want to disclaim him saying that he was the guy who took a company from 5 people to 300 million played no role in our decision to bring him on board whatsoever.
Whatever. That's too funny.
It played, I swear, it played no role. But anyway.
Okay. Well, with that disclaimer in mind, I just wanted to say a little bit about my experience locating Corey, and really what happened was that somebody in our network who has been a big investor in the dot com and onward has done these giant projects, used a certain CFO, turns out to have been Corey. And so when I finally met Corey, first of all, he says I was self employed. Well, he actually built a company that he sold. So he built a financial advisory company, and you know it's not easy to do in California because it's so regulation bound, but he did it. And he's kind of has the ability to choose his next gig. And really, I think in a series of meetings that you and I had, Corey, we kind of understood that you were interested intellectually in this thing, that this was like, ooh, this could be cool, right? That was kind of what I got. And we were very interested in someone who would be driven by not just, well, how am I going to make 120K a year or whatever it was, right? No, you were interested in the actual opportunity here.
Yeah, no, that's totally true. Like Riggs and I kind of kicked it off. We had a good rapport, good relationship. He started talking to me about water and concerns about it and what the industry is doing. And I'm like, this is great. This is something that kind of like offers a lot of value to myself, to the company, to the public. It's perfect for me for my next step in my career.
Well, you're so welcome. We are so happy to have you. And I might add that, um, top management, Ken, myself, the the financial management, the board, AJ, we are all very happy with your speed of execution. I know that James is relieved to have someone who actually understands finance alongside him, because James is COO and Corey is the incoming CFO. And so they're forming this wonderful team. We call it the West Coast team. And they are really, powering it along. So first of all, we're seeing, rapid execution. You quickly responded to the needs for a financial model that's incredibly sophisticated. I just want to mention one thing about it that's really amazing. So the opportunity zone law says that if you're in a fund for 10 years, at the end of it, all your gains are excluded from federal tax. Okay. But it's your 10 years. So we start a fund, let's say in 2020, January 1st, 2026, and that's the beginning of our 10 years. But then you join 4 years later. Guess what? You're going to be 4 years past that. So each individual timeline is like the slider. And so Corey has had to
Right.
build a series of sliders because individual timelines are involved. And that affects the investment in the water systems. And this thing got more and more and more complicated. And you stayed on top of it, I have to say,
I was
as we
personally
realized.
blown away. Like, yeah, we'd ask him for something and he'd come back like that next day. I'd stun him like, really? Right. So yeah, it's so welcome. Thank you so much.
Sure, my
Well,
pleasure.
financial models are kind of like scripts. There's a famous saying: a producer is a dog with a script in his mouth. Right. Same thing with anybody who's trying to sell. Like if Ken and the rest of us are trying to sell to family offices, institutional buyers, we're a dog with a model in our mouth. It's got to be an amazingly good model that has all the thing tied in, and so somebody who's a professional, Mr. No, is going to look at it. You see, you raise money from everyday people. That's not the same as the person that's been detailed to find all of the holes in somebody's package. And they're like, yes, I found a hole. That's like their goal. And so we're building something here that is super, super unchallengeable.
Bulletproof.
And
Bulletproof.
yeah, well put. So in other words, because I like bulletproof coffee, it's toxin proof, microtoxin proof.
We'll talk
Anyway,
about that
thank
some
you,
more
Corey.
too.
It has been
Mm.
challenging. I mean, just as we've learned more about the business, it has expanded to offer different, like whether investors reinvesting or whether they're not, or how much money is coming in. And so it's been really good, but it's really helped me understand the business and to be able to explain the business to each individual investor in a simple way that they can understand it. And I think that's a key that I've tried to raise money in other situations as well. And you have to have a finance guy that can explain things in simple terms and to make sure you do understand like not only the risks, but the rewards and how everything is going to pan out.
Fantastic. Okay, let's move to the next segment, sir.
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to say, Corey, I know my sister would probably be happy to learn what I stalked you on LinkedIn that you both went to the same college, a little Cal
Oh,
Poly action. Yeah,
yeah.
she was an animal science major, but I was like, oh, Cal Poly, there you go.
There's a few of us around. It's not a big sports college, but everybody loves Cal Poly. It's Central Coast
Hey,
town.
Kate, I mean, yeah, there was definitely a time in my life where I thought about getting into animal sciences, and Cal Poly Slow was the way to go. I mean, it's this beautiful campus, it's gorgeous. So anyway, off
Well, in
topic,
fact,
but you know what?
Elon had an amazing speech he gave to Cal Poly that really, for me, was super inspirational. So great, great, great university to go to. So go ahead.
AJ didn't go to Cal Poly because he found out they didn't have a football team.
Yeah. No, I ended up going. I went to college in a middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, so that I could get a change of scenery from Los Angeles to Amish. That's what I did.
Yeah.
It was a good change. It was a good change. Good
Apparently,
change.
apparently.
Anyway, so all right. So with all that said, Corey, welcome to the team. I'm super excited. I know for my part, you thoroughly twisted my brain when showing me the model. So I appreciate that. It's always good to have a good. I need a nap after I have a meeting, kind of a moment in my life. So, all right. Numbers aren't my thing. That's why I'm the marketing guy. All right. So let's
And
dive
one more thing
into.
before I know we're going to move on to some very important stats, but I wanted to cover as part of the business discussion here, because James, our COO, the man with the bamboo background or whatever it is, what is that? What is your background there?
I think it's shadows. It's shadows.
I think it's
Shadows
supposed
of
to be
like
I think
sunlight.
it's
black.
I think it's shadows. I think it's shadows.
Yeah.
It looks like bamboo
my-
screens.
It's
He's in a
my
tiger box.
African background. It's all
I
good.
love it. So James, I'm going to ask you to mute because James is having trials. He's having trials. But James, has a COO is working very closely with Progressive Water Treatment, and I am really excited because the PWT has doubled its sales resource. Some very, very strong resources. They're going after some big contracts, multi-million-dollar contracts. This is a major change from what it was. It used to be that years ago, like 2016, we got Excel Energy and then nothing, right? But then we've started getting utilities and power plants year after year after year after year after year, several in each year. And so that, it's really hard to absorb a large contract. A $4 or $5 million contract for a small company is a big deal because the cash flow is a challenge. And they've mastered that. So I think that is, to your credit, James, your team is rocking. Why don't you say a few words about how it's going, and I'll mute so we don't get an echo.
No, I think you're absolutely right. We've doubled the sales team. We've got two incredibly strong resources. We've got multiple multi-million-dollar projects in the pipeline. We've got multiple multi-million-dollar projects in production right now. I mean, PWT's biggest challenges right now are getting projects out the door, and planning for projects that we expect to capture just over the next 12 months, never mind anything else in the future. And I'm working very closely with Mark on how we add even further capabilities to the sales side of the house before we start to actually build up the rest. We're going to grow the business. I mean, that's what it comes down to. But grow it in a very thoughtful, organized manner. So
Strategic?
build up sales. Yeah, strategic and build up the parts of the business that are very margin positive, right? So smart work, right? Build up the consumable side, inside sales, things that are very, very, very margin positive. Sure, we can throw tons and tons of more work at PWT, but throwing tons of more work means more labor, more build, more staff, more this, more that. But what about consumables, right? It's a huge part of the business. It's tons of low hanging fruit. It doesn't require as much high end sales, right? It's a different type of sales. It's inside sales for people that come from that side of the world. It's a capability that they're missing at the moment. They had it in the past. They don't have it right now. So we've got two heavy hitting salespeople on the big project. So leave that alone. Let that do its job. Now let's go attack the part of the business that needs work. And Mark is a willing dance partner. He really is. Like he's all about it. So no, PWT's rocking and rolling as long as we keep supporting them and staying the hell out of their way when they're busy, they're good to go.
So, and really just to drill down on a point you made, I think part of what you're basically saying in a more colloquial way is we're going to we're going to dramatically expand the business as a whole, but dramatically expand the part of the business that has much higher margins, uses up no warehouse or build space, requires no welders, no technicians, no engineers. It just basically requires effort and utilizing a decades long pipeline of relationships to radically potentially increase not only just revenue but net profit.
Correct. So
Okay.
it's so answer is yes. So it's the two things that are in my line of sight right now are inside sales, consumables, things like that, and service contracts, recurring revenue. That's it.
Good. Great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And one
Yeah,
great
so-
thing is that one last thought before I turn it back to AJ is that as we enter the opportunity zone space with a water offering, we're not just rubes. We're not just dudes, throwing out an idea with a model. No, we have the 25 years of experience. We're dealing with massive projects. We have the capability, and all we're adding is the financing layer, which we absolutely can do. So that's what I love about this. So thank you, James.
Yeah, and I think as a nice little cap on that entire conversation and really the business update. If you're watching this for the first time or you're joining us for the first night, and you're wondering what are these guys droning on about, this is part of what we're trying to do by adding a layer of transparency to you, right, and to people that are interested in what we're doing and what we're trying to accomplish. Water on Demand is a relatively new company, being around for 4 or 5 years. But we have manufacturing divisions that have much more experience in that. As Riggs mentioned, 25 years of progressive water treatment, right? And so we've been going through kind of a little bit of an evolution of trying to really make sure that we are able to make the kind of impact that we want to make in the greater water space, not just in individual, little areas or as little companies, which is really what we've been limited to. And so a lot of what we've been just discussing with the opportunity zones, the opportunity zone business, and these things have been able to really help us leverage additional capital. You can find capital to really scale up all manufacturers essentially worldwide. That's the dream. So if you want to find out more about that, go to waterondemand.com. That being said, I just wanted to put a little cap on that. So that being said, last month we talked about a thread that absolutely exploded on Ken's X profile that was essentially talking about the dark secrets of U.S. water infrastructure and ultimately the takeaways from that. One, well, there's a bunch of takeaways, but we'll start with the most obvious one is the fact that we've been working to kind of build a presence for Ken over the past number of months, and really trying to outreach on a number of different topics, mainly in the areas of wealth building and finance, but also water. And the response specifically to the wealth building topics is what you would expect, right? People are excited about learning how to make money. But one thing that is kind of the thing we had hoped would happen at some point, because Riggs has been on podcast after podcast after podcast after podcast, beating the drum, being the informant, ringing the alarm bells, trying to let people know, hey guys, there's a problem, we got to do something about this problem. And finally we saw the response from the public that was over 1 million views, millions of impressions on Ken's count since, countless followers that are all people eager to learn more about the mission of how we save the water. And I think it's a phenomenal testament to the fact that people are growing in this awareness, and you guys are able to come along on this mission with us, not just to learn more about the state of water currently, not just to learn about what can you do to potentially make your house safer, which we will talk about a little bit because that's everybody's natural question, but really how to dive into these things and actually consume them in a little bit more of an understandable way so that you can really understand the world around you. The first of which is rising costs. So the first thing that I'm going to do is actually bring up an article here, and I'll share my screen. We had an article that came out of Bluefield Research. If you guys are unfamiliar with Bluefield, they are a company that does a significant amount of research every year on water and problems surrounding water. Let me go ahead and get this share.
While you're doing that, AJ, I was a guy who wasn't on X like 2 years ago. I got 53.6 million impressions on my posts in the last several months. I started writing about wealth creation, asymmetrical wealth creation, which is kind of a universally attractive feature, especially for young and up and comers, people who, I want to take a little money and make a lot of money. That became very, very interested. When we started writing about the hidden, the perils of water and how crappy our water is and how dangerous it is and how toxic it is, nobody paid attention to this for the longest time. But now millions of people were not only viewing it, they were sharing it, they were reposting it, they were commenting on it, they were asking me questions about it, they were DMing me. The amount of awareness that's happened in the last, I don't know how long, because I'm not quite sure if it was there before we started doing this, is stunning. No, look, I think we are, and I could be wrong, but I think we are the only people talking about this. I don't know that I'm not the only guy going, hey guys, water's a huge, gigantic financial and health mess. I don't think anyone else is doing it. And I say that because the response to this was so overwhelming. Anyway, I wanted to get those 2 cents in, because if you want to know more, we'll get some of my thoughts. If you don't mind me occasionally troll posting people, you can go to at Ken Berenger on X, and you'll see a lot of my thoughts, my musings, and my occasionally torturing people that are, dumb.
Well, because you're such a kind soul and you're so graceful.
No, only the people that deserve it.
Yeah. It's actually an interesting point that you bring up, Ken, is to the fact that we've gotten such a response on X. And the reality is, and I'm going to disagree with you a little bit live, which is kind of fun. You weren't the only person talking about it. Riggs wasn't the only person talking about it, but people were not listening because, Riggs posted the question to us before we started this show. And he said, why is it that people are just now actually caring? Why is it that it feels like now is the time that they've decided that they want to care and get involved? And really, in some kind of quick wit, and then my own kind of understanding here is most of the literature around the state of water is stuck in academic land.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
It's on Bluefield
right.
Research.
Right.
It's
and
on
I speak in colloquial terms.
wateronline.com.
Right. Yep.
Well, no, it's not in the mainstream. You might see the occasional thing, but when we talk about
engineering
water,
paper, it's in an engineering paper that no one sees or doesn't understand.
It's on Blue Sky.
Yeah. Well, it's again, it's on a lot of, or it's on Blue Sky, which is unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your opinion. Yeah, that's a whole other thing. But the reality is that it's not mainstream, and I think that that's something that we could really, if you're going to take a little bit of a victory lap, it's nice to see that we finally found a medium that we can talk about this stuff and people latch onto it and finally care. Right.
Well,
So
I was talking to people, not
deal.
at them. Well, here are the stats, because then people's eyes glaze over. When I mention your water bill has increased 54% in the last 5 years, they go, yeah. When you hear about these young people posting like, I can't afford my rent, I'll never own a house. I mean, that's a scourge. Look, if you're renting, I guarantee you your utility costs are a major, major reason that your rent is higher, because your landlord has to pass it through to the rent. So you're not getting a utility bill. You don't realize that your utility, but I guarantee you your landlord does. So what that happens is that's manifesting in an overall rent bill that becomes rapidly unaffordable, especially to these young people going to college or working 2 jobs and things like that. We can assign some of the strain on young people to mortgage rates being very, very high. People refinanced at higher rates. They had to pass that on to the rent. But I guarantee you a major, major portion of that is not just, it's water, sewer, it's electric, it's everything. But really water and sewer have been completely out of control.
Yeah, I mean, I'm about to show you this in this thing here, but to I guess add a little bit more color to that.
I said 24%. Was I right? Yeah. Okay.
No. You'll see. No, you were right. I'll show you. It's 2 different stats, right? There's a couple things to discuss. When we talk about the fact that there's water problems, when we say water problems, it's not just water quality problems, which is what a lot of people think of. They think of Flint, Michigan. They're like, oh well, my city's not Flint, Michigan. But what they don't think about is they don't think about water main breaks. They don't think about other pollutants, and they don't think about any of this other stuff. Yet their water bills keep increasing, and no one goes why, right?
Water main break, guys. I don't have to pay for that. Yes, you do.
Right. And so one of the things that we did discuss last month on the Dark Secrets of Water, and one of the summations of that, is the fact that when the infrastructure was built, when all of this water infrastructure was built, decades ago, the government was footing 75% plus of that bill back even as early as the 70s, or I guess as recent as the 70s. That number has declined down to 9%. So where do you think that deficit gets made up? It gets made up in your pocket, which is why your rates go up every year. It also gets made up in the fact that the government is almost $500 billion behind in infrastructure funding. So of the 9%, the government is $500 billion underfunded on even that. So
But where's
where do
the
you
hidden
think
lead
the money
there?
is going to come from?
It was 200 plus million just last year.
Yeah, it
It's
was
almost
256 billion last year.
500 billion. I'm sorry, 200 billion last year. It's almost 500 billion in a single year.
That's for by 2029. That what they do is they have to cut corners. And so literally it is, I'm being colloquial here, they're throwing some bleach at the effluent and recirculating it. That's obviously a very simplistic way to say it, but they have to cut corners because they don't have the funds to really treat the water right. And this is why people are having to invest in water systems in their own home, because the municipalities are not doing the job. And so we have got to force what was happening, it's already happening organically, is that businesses are taking up the slack. And that's the movement that is so exciting.
And to be fair,
the stimulation to business growth by providing this service, providing this investor-funded asset class, the growth that this could control, it's uncontrollable growth, which is phenomenal.
Right.
And it all ties into the 100% bonus that we can, I don't know if we're going to take time to talk about that tonight, but go ahead.
Not right now. We're going to talk about the water right now. But what's going to happen is I want to make sure
you
that
just
we
got zipped, Ken.
I do, because
yes,
I want to talk about the water pieces. The thing that I want to make sure that you guys don't do when you hear us talk about that is grab your torch and pitchfork for your local municipality, right? The local municipality is your local municipalities are typically doing the best they can with what they have, which is typically very little. And every time they have to make the painstaking choice to up your taxes or up the costs of the water treatment, it's because they really have no other choice to try and cover some of the funds of the infrastructure. I mean, in New Jersey last month, which is not an article I have for you, but you can go look it up. New Jersey last month, they had 3 water main breaks. Same month, 3 water main breaks. Water was down
in the same town. Within the same
municipality, there were 3 in the same month, and it shut people's water off for I think between 7 and 10 days. I think some people might have even been a little longer, right? So like you see those issues happen, and you're like, wow, that really sucks. But you don't understand that that's a result of degrading infrastructure. They said most of those pipes were 140 years old, so you're talking about some really, really old infrastructure in those areas. But anyway, so let's dive into the meat of this article here, Bluefield, basically saying that water rates have increased 5% or 4.5% from 23 to 24. And I really just want to take a look at this graph because it really says it all. And this is the interesting thing, and this is going to tie into the next article that I'm going to bring up and show us as well, where you can see from 2019 to 2024, right? You can see that it's on average of like between 4 and 5% a year that the rates for your water and sewer are going up. But look at there's a steady, constant, almost an inflation kind of adjusted graph for your actual drinking water. But look at the spikes in the sewer water. Look at the spikes.
Much higher. Yeah.
Right?
Because they have to treat it. They have to do things to it.
Right, and part of that is because there's a new influx of businesses that are trying to get started that are polluting, and they're having to deal with new contaminants. Some of it is they're just discovering new contaminants. One of the things we can get into on a completely different show, we're going to talk about an article from a website called ewg.org. They put out water quality reports everywhere. You can go look yours up. I'll put a link in that below. But they're constantly calling out new contaminants that just aren't being addressed because we're only using the standards that were developed, I think it's back in the 60s, is what they're using for the current water quality standards. Because if they went by today's standards, you wouldn't be able to drink it.
I want to mention something. They talk about these different toxic compounds at levels in the water that are deemed, acceptable.
It deemed safe.
No one's done a study on what the combination of all of them actually does. right? There's a study being done right now in medicine on the same thing. What is the cumulative effect of all of these, pharmaceutical interventions doing, right? Well, it's the same thing with the water, right? You may be just below what's considered toxic on 30 different chemicals that, when combined, could have an unknown health effect.
Well, what's also happening is that the EPA is trying to do something about these forever chemicals, and that's the topic we'll discuss as well. Forever chemicals are literally, PFAS is the term that nobody understands, but we say forever chemicals. But these are the really, really sticky chemicals that do not get out of the system, and they're really hard to treat. So the EPA issued a mandate to treat all the PFAS, the forever chemicals, and they said, and we have $5 billion for you. This is something that will cost $300 billion. It's an unfunded mandate, right? Like EPA says it, and they, here's some spare cash, which was sucked up by the most influential water utilities immediately, duh. And then everybody else is left unfunded, but required to meet it. And it's kind of this thing where who does what? Everybody's looking at each other like, now what? Well, now what is that there's a movement by businesses, because it's financially better for them to do it, to take over their own water treatment. Now, I want to make something very clear here, because we hear it again and again. We are dramatically opposed to privatizing fresh water. We are against it 100%. It has never worked. Whenever it's been done, it has damaged water quality.
It's been beyond a disaster. Beyond a disaster.
And UK has a terrible problem because of that, et cetera. We are
Australia.
all about privatizing, cleaning the dirty water, which, if it's not done, guess where it ends up? It ends up in the groundwater and eventually in your tap.
But it's a private user that's making the water dirty. So privatizing the treatment and having the folks that pollute the water treat the water seems to make sense. Now, it's always been a financial problem. We've solved that. I'm not allowed to talk about that yet.
No, we're not talking about that right now. Can we keep on topic of the water? So you bring up really good points, right? Because the treatment aspect of it, is the most important thing. No, I know it's called a lead-in, but we still have meat to talk on this bone here. Okay. So what does that mean for you? Yeah, what is the average? I know, I feel like I'm holding back, the heckling Muppets from the Muppet thing, right? You guys are heckling each other and you're heckling me. No, the data highlights the affordability crisis, right? And what they're basically saying is that these rising costs that we've looked at here in this graph are contributing to excess of affordability thresholds that are set by the EPA, which again, Riggs, like you just mentioned, is another mandate that no one's following. Like, well, we can either let people get really, really sick and just not treat the water, or we can charge them more and try and treat it the best we can. It's a crap situation for the municipality to have to figure out how to deal with, which is not great. But another boggling stat is this analysis reveals minimum wage earners in select cities much work as many 20 hours a month to cover their water and sewer bills. So
that's like an eighth of a month. That's terrible.
Right. Well, and that's if you're working 40 hours a week. What if you're only working part-time hours?
If you're a part-timer,
as a lot of people are, right? Yeah. A lot of people are stuck trying to figure out how to do part-time hours and things like that. If 20 hours a month is just going to cover water and sewer, that's a really rough go of it. So just as Riggs mentioned, right, we are about privatizing water treatment, and what that's going to do is it's going to lower the costs of the actual water for everyone else, because you're not going to be paying for the treatment portion of, again, the thing that's going up the most, right? That's the piece that we're trying to affect. And I think there was one last little nugget from this article, and then I'll hop over to the other one, which is just as staggering, to be honest. But again, you get the comments here. From the authorities, right? Unfortunately, there's no one-size-fits-all solution. At this point, long-term planning, innovative approaches at the local level be critical to sustaining water and sewer surfaces. Exactly. They are finally figuring it out. And this is the one thing I wanted to save this little nugget for a very appropriate time. We were talking earlier how, you knew about the water problem if you were involved in the water circles, but you didn't know about it if you're in the public circle. The one thing that even in the academic circle, they're acknowledging, but they don't talk about, is the solution. And I'll get to that here in a second. But most of the time when you talk about the solutions, everybody looks to the government. Hey, government, when are we going to get more funding to fix this problem, right? No one is looking outside of government spending to fix it. They're all just constantly
sitting there with their hands out going, we don't know how to fix this. You need to help us. And as I already mentioned to you, government's in continuing to abdicate responsibility. So we're coming up this thing where even the people in the water sectors don't know what to do. And we're over here going, guys, we got a solution. We actually have a way to fix this problem. And it's not because people aren't aware of the problems. It's not, and again, the experts aren't aware. They are. It's not that they're not have the technology to fix them, as we're going to see here in a couple articles. It's really they don't have the money. And I can't emphasize this enough, that the significance of water on demand's breakthrough with the opportunity zones and all of these different things, the real important thing is that this is the first solution that's actually going to give a solution to actually make the problem better. And it's not through crazy innovative breakthroughs and technologies and cleanings and all this kind of stuff. It's literally just allowing water to be an attractive investment. And that's what it needs to be able to be successful. There you go. There's your
you could throw it. I'm gonna add one more thing. You could throw a dartboard at a phone book. For those of you who don't know what that is, ask your parents. You could throw a dartboard at a phone book, and you could hit a you would hit a water treatment company, water treatment manufacturer that has both the manufacturing capability and the technical brilliance to put a system anywhere that's needed that would handle whatever that specific effluent is. The capability to do this from a technological standpoint has existed for decades. We know our own manufacturer does it beautifully well. It was where does the so the manufacturer gets a $5 million order. If he's a small company, the good news is he got a $5 million order. Bad news is he got a $5 million order, right? Absorbing that manufacturing job, you'll see a big spike in the revenue. And then, of course, they can't take on any more jobs. So the following year, their numbers drop. So being able to basically hand that manufacturer, here's the money, go do it. They're able to get it done much more rapidly. Of course, the ease on the purchaser, or in this case, it would be the end user, is just as phenomenal. It literally solves the problem on both sides, and it's incentive. Now, why haven't people invested in water before, you might ask? Well, I'm glad you asked that question. It hasn't been a good investment when compared to or contrasted with other types of indispensable assets, right? Energy, housing. There's always been a major tax component and long-term revenue component. Now, utilities have that, of course. Utility stocks do very, very well, right? They pay these tremendously generous dividends. But there has never been a way for a person to have a taxable event and have that absorbed somehow by making a serious investment in water. And of course, just so happens we found one.
Sure. And that kind of leads into this next spot here, which is to really show you not just the water, right? So we saw before over the last 5 years, so between 2019 and 2024, but part of the reason you're seeing your water pain is that your water prices have increased by 24%. Now that's within Bluefield's select cities that they're monitoring. Now, this article is interesting for different reasons. So this is a J.D. Power national survey that they did of prices across the United States, and the results actually more severe. It's saying it's actually not just 24%, because it's saying water in and of itself, when they measured the national average from Q1 2020, which was $63, right, to 2025, or to Q2 2025, it's now $99, right? That's a hefty increase.
I think that's the 54% increase.
No, it's 57% increase just to water, and this doesn't include sewer. So when you're actually looking outside of Bluefield's specific research areas where it's got itself set up, which already paints a pretty bleak picture in terms of the rising costs, right? It's actually worse than that at the national level, which I shouldn't laugh. It's awful, guys. Like I can't describe to you. I look at these stats and I go, this is terrible. This just sucks. I don't know what else to say other than it sucks. It's
become this acceptable pain that people just accept to endure.
Well, you're right about endure, because the reason why it maybe hasn't got the visibility that it needs is because people don't know what to do about it, right? Okay, fine. There's these stats. I can't get the water rates to go back down. I have no say. And So us empowering businesses indirectly. See, you've got water companies all over America, which have these prospective businesses that want to treat their water, want to do something about it, and take it off the grid so it's no longer burdening the consumer, but they can't pay for it. And so finally, there's an outlet for this desire to do something about it. And so people are rising up out of apathy. And that, I think, is a clue, Ken, to why you're so popular on this, because it's like, hey, there's a way forward. And people are like, whoa, this is cool. Because they might be viewing it because they're curious, but they're following you, which means they care and they want to hear more.
No, they do care. Originally, I thought it was my sarcastic sense of humor. I realize now I had plenty of impressions when I talked about wealth building. Numbers went up when I started talking about water.
Amazing.
The numbers,
Amazing.
I went from hundreds of thousands of impressions to millions. And I said, holy crap, people finally have woken up. They get it. Now, I would love to think that we played a role screaming from the mountaintop for years and years and years, but I also think it's the power of X. I think it's that platform, the ability to reach millions and millions and millions of people with a single thought. Now, I never understood the power of the platform before I used it. Now, I don't even think I fully grasp it. It's a truly, truly amazing way to communicate once you understand how to do that.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because you mentioned earlier that we're the first. We're not the first across all media, but we're the first in the most important media platform in X. There's nobody else on X really doing what we're doing. Sure, there's all kinds of articles in Scientific American, whatever, but unfortunately, those are legacy. What people are watching increasingly is X all over the world. So that, I think, is what the intersection of something people really cared about with a solution, with a great platform, I think it ignited
absolutely.
100%. And so to wrap up this segment so we can dive into our last one for a little bit here is really just to say, continuing on from last month, the continuation of the dark secrets of water this is why your rates are rising. This is why your bills keep going up. If you go, why do they keep raising my bill? This is why. It's because there's continuously less and less and less funding available for your local municipality to treat your water, which is going to eventually hit a tipping point if we aren't able to do something where your rates are still going to be high and your water's still going to be crap. We're already there largely. It's why people are choosing to do ROs and get, filtered shower heads and a bunch of other things today. And I don't want to make light of that, but it really is that kind of unfortunate truth is that's why your bill's going up. And if you really want to do something about it, then this is the way.
Yeah, not only will I not drink this water, I don't let my family shower with it. I have a whole house system plus additional filters to filter out the glyphosate and it's literally that bad. Like it's causing these long-term, chronic illness. People blame a lot of, they want to blame pharmaceuticals but I can promise you some of it is your environment. It is the air you breathe, right? But it's also the water you're bathing in, you're consuming. This plays a long-term health detriment. We can actually have a bigger impact on long-term human health. We can bend the curve on that at the same time that we provide all these other benefits for business, for rapid growth, for development, and of course, for creating a new asset class that people can invest in, feel good about, measure how much they actually make a difference with their dollars, that sort of thing.
And so we're gonna use this in that kind of a little tidbit that Riggs posted or talked about earlier to talk about forever chemicals. So forever chemicals have been buzzing in the topics lately. In fact, there's a study that came out. So Northeastern's PFAS project lab. I know it's like no one knows what PFAS is. It's forever chemicals. That's the easy way to say it, right? But
or as I refer to
them,
endocrine disruptors and cancer-causing agents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so essentially what they are though is they're long-lasting chemicals that can stay in your body for a very long time. They can cause endocrine disruption. They can cause lots of different illnesses. And we're really just at the beginning of really understanding just how detrimental they are to our body or just how widespread they are. And the reason I wanted to cite this article is because there's a couple really, really unfortunate things. So the research done by this university's lab reveals that there are about 2,200 known sites of contamination in the U.S. And there's an interesting graph here. So these were the known contamination sites. Well, they've done a more recent study, right? And there's close to another 80,000 likely studies. Only 80,000, guys. We started off with 2,200. We're up to 80,000. And this is what that looks like here in this little wonderfully presumptive PFAS contaminated site. And essentially, it's a more widespread issue than we think, because every time that you're using plastics, or every time plastics are integrated into materials, even things like Band-Aids, right, they can contain PFAS and find ways into your body. And so it's a concerning thing that we really need to start to understand is the real detriment of these forever chemicals.
I'm amazed. And let's come back to Make America Healthy again, and Maha. And so we've recognized increasingly that Americans, and other countries as well, but Americans are increasingly sick. And it's no accident that we have water problems. Toxins are absorbed, obviously, by drinking it, but also indirectly through the food, right? The farmed food and so forth. All of this comes into our bodies and it sticks. And so I believe that it's going to become more and more critical as the studies show that there's direct harm being done to people through the water. And I'm so glad that our investors are helping us, get a handle on this.
Yeah, I mean, so to kind of, I guess, illuminate, I guess, the final tidbits of things here. So there's a couple of really good tidbits that continue to just confirm the things that we've already been telling you, right? We've been sounding these alarms for forever. Finally, we can point to these sources and say, look, people are saying the same thing, right? So finding industrial sources of contamination is vital. There have been some federal efforts to curb the pollution, as Riggs already mentioned, but has largely been paid to water treatment plants, not the industrial sources where they're flowing from. They're advocating for point of pollution treatment, right? That's the only way it's actually going to get done, right?
A stunning
Turning off the tap
stat.
starts at the source, right?
Right. Yeah. But you have another stat here. 99% of Americans have forever chemicals in their bodies, including newborn babies.
Yeah.
It's
insane. So I wanted to leave you guys not with doom and gloom, right? Because we're not about doom and gloom here. We're about hope. We're about being able to make a difference. It's why we do what we do. And so I wanted to share with you one last article that came from, as I mentioned earlier, ewg.org. By way of wateronline.com. If you're interested in water stuff, wateronline.com is pretty much the source to get aggregated material. They did not pay me to say that, although I wish you would. It'd be great. Let's get together and make something happen. So EWG, for those of you, again, if you're not familiar, ewg.org, you can go in and basically type in your zip code and get a local water report of what is acceptable and what is unacceptable. It's what we've been using it for, ourselves personally for a long time now. When I joined the company, Riggs and Ken were like, "Hey, have you heard of EWG?" And I'm like, "What's that?" They're like, "You don't know. You don't want to know what it is, but you do want to know
You'll
what
never
it is."
drink
And I'm
water
like, "Oh,
again,
God."
that's for sure. Right.
I went out and bought a reverse osmosis system literally that same week. So yeah, it's a thing. So this is actually a really interesting study saying that the water treatment that we're using to eliminate these forever chemicals from the water also is able to remove carcinogens from the water, right?
Amazing.
Like, freaking awesome. So again, this is one of those really exciting things for me. It's talking about the technological advances to be able to treat this stuff exists, right? It's a phenomenal game changer that this is where it is. In fact, you hear 19 systems that EWG studied. Installation of these treatment technologies led to a 42% drop in the level of these things, while also really affecting some others. So being able to really remove this stuff, to me, that's a game changer. I don't know. What do you guys think?
All right. So
I agree.
the ability to remove this stuff has existed for a long time. It's never been access to technology. It's never been the technology being good enough, at least not in the last decade or more. I would think you would agree, Riggs. It's always about, well, how do you do it? How do you implement? How do you execute? How do you pay for it? That sort of thing. And that's been the thing that's almost been a showstopper. Do you agree?
Yeah. Oh, well, there's that the terrible story about the Neville Home Park where she had to give up half of her trailer park in order to treat the water otherwise she was going to be put out of business. And so she sacrificed half of her personal small business in order to stay alive. That should not happen. It's terrible.
Right. And so a couple other additional tidbits here, which really, and again, I it's our podcast, so we can say what we want. My goal with these is not to be an infomercial for water on demand, but I'm just really excited about the fact that we're actually making progress in an area where no one else seems to be really paying attention. And you keep seeing things like this that further validate that, right? It says only 7% of small water systems defined as serving fewer than 500 people use advanced filtration, right? As a result, millions of Americans are underfunded. By contrast, 28% of the largest utilities use the technology. And that's where, again, it's not about the big companies not wanting to do it. The big companies that can afford to do it are doing it. They don't care. They're going to play by the rules, because if not, they're going to get fined, and they have the money to do it, so they do it. It's everyone else that gets hosed because the money's just not there. And so I can't, I'm going to start sounding probably like an annoying broken record when we keep saying it's the money, it's the money, it's the money, it's the money, it's the money. How do we solve it with money? Not everything you can throw money at and solve it. This is the one problem where actually you can. That is
I
the
had an old
single
boss.
blocker behind it.
I had an old boss that used to say, if you have a problem and you can fix it by writing a check, it's not a problem. That was a joke of his, right? But
nobody's
think
writing the
about-
checks. That's the problem.
Well, that's right. Well, but no, what he's saying is, if you can write a check and make the problem go away, it wasn't a problem, meaning it is solvable. How many people are facing life-threatening health problems that if they could just write a check and make it go away, they would? This is solvable. We have the technology, and it was providing the financial mechanism to allow you, me, institutional investors, family offices, who are people too. They all want to make a difference. They all want to make this better, but you had to make it interesting. You had to make it an exciting investment opportunity, and you had to give them a break in the areas that they needed it most, which was, tax strategy. And this coming together of all these elements, we've had the first part for a long, long time. To be able to bring this other part in was really the icing on the cake. And I think this could end up being the most exciting and most impactful asset class of our lifetime.
And certainly the most underappreciated until recently. So I'm so excited, guys.
And that's where all the doom and gloom comes from. Sorry, right. We're trying to make sure you appreciate it. Right.
Well,
exactly.
No,
Yeah.
and again, once again, like I mentioned earlier, right here, right? Urges federal state leaders to boost federal and state funding for advanced filtration, right? I know, exactly. But that's the thing is, well, what's the solution? We need money. We need more money.
What they'll do, how they'll do it, they'll threaten to fine local, makers and local producers if they don't do it. And they go, okay, but I don't have the money. Right?
Yeah. I mean, the other thing
That's
is
where the
governments spend and budget on an annual basis. They
Right.
just look at how much money is coming in this year. That's how much they spend. So when they get behind in infrastructure, there's almost no way for them to catch up. And that's why you see these rates are continuing to increase because they're always playing catch up.
And the printing of money was a kind of a partial effort to, fund it, but you're funding it with inflated dollars. And that's a part of the reason our purchasing power has been so. Don't get me started on printing money, please.
Oh, please.
It'll become the libertarian podcast. I don't want to do that.
No, you don't have to do that, but again, it is, and I appreciate you bringing that point up, Cory, right? Because it's 100% accurate. I've got,
Yes.
if you've worked at all with government contracts, you know that, well, if I don't spend it this year, then it goes away next year, right? And so there's a flippant waste to government spending, and then there's also this giant need for government spending, and there's no balance in between. So we're relying too much again on that particular apparatus to solve the problem, when in reality, it's really, how do we make water more attractive as an investment to private investments? Because the money in the private sector is there. It just is, I guess Ken pointed out, right? It doesn't, the tax benefits, all these different types of things that are available in other areas just weren't able to be here until now. And so we go, whoa, now we've actually made it so that water's sexy again for everyone. And for all of you that respond to my ads and that comment on my videos that say, AJ, you guys are horrible. You know what? Water should be free. We agree. We viciously agree with you.
You've been paying for it for the last 118 years.
100%. The drinking water should be free. It should not be something that is charged. The only way that dream is ever going to become a reality in any real sense is for us to start making an impact at the point of pollution. And that way, that all of the costs that you're incurring, again, which we've already shown you earlier tonight, all of those costs that keep going up on the sewer side are able to finally start coming down, or at least be addressed by the polluters themselves, which they actually want to do. There's no bad guys here. And I think that that's the other thing. I mean, even though we all can have our feelings about government, but the fact that the government doesn't have the money, or it's redistributing in other places, right, is a reality of government. Well, if they're not doing the job, then who else is going to do it? There's no one else. There's us, right? So we have to take responsibility at some point, or else it's just going to get out of control. And that time is now, which is why I'm so excited that you guys are here to join us. So that being said, I think we've pretty much hit our time, which is phenomenal. So I'm gonna beg and plead with you, as is my tradition. Please make sure that you are following us on social media at Ken Berenger, at RigZec, at Water on Demand. Thank you so much, James and Cory, and for joining us. Cory, it's been great getting to learn more about you tonight, and to be able to talk more about some of these issues. And hopefully we'll have some more information next time. And if you're interested in joining the mission and joining the cause and really helping us to move the needle in a massive way where we can really save the water one project at a time, please go to offer.waterondemand.com. There will, entering your information will be able to get you to the right place to see how you exactly can help. And if being able to contribute financially or become an investor with us is not in the cards, please share these videos. Share the videos about the water, go and read these articles, become more informed yourself. And all of that is going to help us to raise the level of awareness and to bring more attention to this absolute ridiculous crisis that, as Ken pointed out, actually is solvable in a real way.
And we don't spend a lot of time talking about how we actually have gone about solving this. I don't want to tease and say we figured it out. We fixed it. We didn't spend any time on this, and we don't want to. We want to make this about being conscious and socially aware of this. But if you go to that page, offer.waterondemand, I spend 15 minutes carefully describing how we go from where we are to how it gets fixed and how you play a role. And I'm available to answer questions on a more one-on-one basis once you at least know what you want to know.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well,
All
by
right.
the way, I want to say that both Ken and AJ are doing wonderful work here, bringing in investors. It's really starting to crank, and that's a wonderful sign that people are getting the message. And it really warms my heart to see the amount of support we're getting. So continue the great work, guys.
Appreciate that. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for Legends of Water this month. Stay tuned for next month. Hold on. Let me revert back to my notes. It is going to be October 16th. That is the third Thursday of the month. You can find us here. Please make sure you share and comment, subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you can hear from more of us as we go along. Take care, everybody. Have a great time.
Good night.